Hello everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about the new tools available for you to use in the Z1 Designer version 2021.4. For those of you not familiar with the Z1 software, the Designer is the application that lets you create your own dashboards or modify existing dashboards for use with the Z1 dashboard software in your favorite sim. So in this video, we're going to talk about three new tools: the Arc tool, the Circle Graph tool, and the competitor tool. But before we do that, we're going to give a plug for our Discord channel. The link is in the description below. Please join that. It's a really fantastic resource. We have somewhere, I think, around 1,000 members. You can ask all sorts of questions about the Z1 software or just Sims in general, share your rigs, share other information. It's a really great resource, so we highly recommend you check that out. So now though, let's get on with the video and talk about those three new tools, starting with the competitor tool. Okay, so the competitor tool. This is used for displaying information about other cars on track, either ones that are ahead of you or behind you, and that can be either by their actual position on the track, so the car that is directly in front of you or directly behind you, or their position within the race, so the car that is actually the position ahead of you or the position behind you. And if they're the position ahead or behind you, they may not be the car directly in front or behind you. So how do you choose this tool? On the toolbar, this helmet right here is the competitor tool. If you don't see it, that's probably because your toolbar is slightly smaller, so just drag it and make it bigger until you see the helmet icon, and then you can choose this tool. Like any other tool, you just click on it and drag it out to where you want it to be. It's going to be in the foreground. It needs to be in the foreground because it changes information, and information that is placed in the background doesn't change, so make sure you do put it in the foreground. So yes, like any other tool, you just place it and drag it where you want to put it. We are going to just delete this, because I don't want to add a new one. So this dashboard is designed using the competitor tool. So all of these different options here are available within the competitor tool. When you place it, you can choose what they do. So we're just going to quickly go over the options that you can choose for displaying information about that car. So on the right here in the options property, we have the competitor type. So I expand this drop down. You can see here all these different options. And there are quite a few, but they're all basically the same thing, just for ahead, behind, and then position or car. So we'll go through the main ones here and then just briefly talk about how they work with the other categories. So first up, you have the name. Obviously, this is the driver's name. So in this case, it's a fictional driver called Stan Fleming. Then you have the position. So this is obviously what position in the race that driver happens to be. The car, what type of car are they driving? The laps since they last stopped. So if they stopped 4 laps ago, this would say 4. If you're doing iRacing, you can have the I rating of the driver and their safety rating displayed. Then there's live delta. So this is the current delta in seconds between where you are on track and where they are on track. So if they're 4.5 seconds ahead of you, this will say 4.5 seconds. Then there's the start-finish delta. So this is basically the change between when you cross the start line and when they cross the start line. So you can use this to determine, are you catching them or are they sort of pulling away from you a little bit. Their last lap time, their fastest lap time, their last lap delta. So this is the delta of whatever their last lap was compared to whatever your last lap was. So it's basically the start-finish line delta, but like a lap before. And then the fast lap delta. So this is obviously the difference between whatever their fastest lap is and whatever your fastest lap is. So you can use all this information to display a dashboard for what you want to know about that particular driver. All the other ones are the exact same information, just for different cars. So this car ahead is the car directly ahead of you on track, and then car behind is the car directly behind you on the track. Then we have the position option. So the position ahead is the whoever is ahead of you in the race. So if you're in, say, 5th place, the position ahead would be whoever's in 4th place, and that would be irregardless of where they are on track. So say there are 3 or 4 cars ahead of you, they would still show up because they're 4th and you're 5th. And then position behind is just the opposite. So if you're in 5th place, this will be showing whoever's in 6th place, regardless of how far behind they are. If there are other cars in between you and that car, it's still 6th place, so they would show up as the car in behind you. So let's close that out. All the rest of the options are the same as our standard options. The colors, where you place it, what font, alignment, things like that. The format window, this is used for lap times, so you can say what sort of format you want the lap time to show up in and put that in right here. So in this case, you would have 2 digits for the minutes, and then 2 digits for seconds, and 2 digits for tenths of a second and hundredths of a second. So that is the competitor tool, and this is new in this version, and it makes it very easy to create dashboards showing information about other cars on the track. Okay, so let's talk about the arc tool and the graph, circular graph tool. So this dashboard is a great example using both of those. Here at the top you have an arc, and at the bottom you have an arc. And then the whole RPM display here is using the circular graph. So you can see it starts here and goes all the way around up into the red, and then it's matched with these arcs at the top and the bottom. So this dashboard gives you a fantastic idea of what you can do with these tools. So now, how do you use them and how do you place them? So we're just going to quickly create a new dash. So yeah, that's fine. I do. I'm going to call it, test dash, and we can just start here with a blank display. So on the left here, we have the arc tool and the circular graph tool. So if we choose the arc tool first and click and drag it to place it, and yeah, we're going to place it in the background because it's never going to change. So the background is where you put objects which don't actually change. And you can drag this just like you would any other object, resize it like you would any other object. And it also has these additional vertexes right here where you can adjust the arc to whatever you need it to be for your design. And then as a standard options on the right, you have the colors, the fill color, and where it's located and what the stroke is. So the stroke is just the thickness of the line. So if you make this 10, you have a much thicker line than if you make it something like 1 or 2. The fill color, if I choose that, let's say we just want it to be red. So that just fills in the arc between the ends of the design here. So if you want to do something like this, you can fill it in and get, which looks kind of like some weird, I don't know, watermelon thing. But anyway, I'm going to get rid of the color there. And then down here you have the start and the end angles, which you can enter manually in degrees, or as you just adjust these, they adjust automatically. And then the final option is you can make this a closed arc. So if I click that, it just connects the 2 lines here. So depending on your design, that may be something you want to put into it. So that's the arc tool. Now we're going to look at the circular graph tool. So I'm just going to delete this and then click on the circular graph and place that. So again, now I'm going to put this in the foreground because a graph, the circular graph, it needs to be in the foreground because it is going to change, obviously, as you drive around the track, and things in the foreground are things which change versus background which don't change. So let's look at this tool. It has the standard options for dragging it. In the exact same way as you move the circular graph, you can adjust this and have it be wherever you need it to be for your design. On the right here, under Object Properties, we've got our standard things, what channel we based on. RPM is a fairly common one. Speed could be another one. But you could put anything you want here. You could have brake bias, you could have shocks, anything you feel like you can assign to this graph. And just choose it from the drop-down of whatever you need it to be. Then we have the color of the graph, which is the green here, and the stroke, which is the red here. And these can be any colors you want again. Just click and choose the new color. So if you wanted that, you can go with that design. Then we have the standard location and where it starts and ends, and the width of the stroke. So the start value, obviously this relates to your channel, so as RPM, 1,000 to 8,000 could make sense. If this was speed, 1,000 to 8,000 would not make sense because you're never going to go 1,000 miles or kilometers per hour. But for now, this is good. We're going to say down here is 1,000 RPM and up here is 8,000 RPM. Then you can enter your start and end angles just like you could with the arc tool, or you can just drag around manually. Using the mouse to place it as you want. The final part is the tick frequency. This is also available in the standard graphs. So this tick frequency allows you to draw lines in the graph automatically. And it's also based on your start and end values. So our start value is 1,000 and our end value is 8,000. If we wanted a line drawn every, say, 250 RPM, because again, we're looking at RPM, so it's, our start value is 1,000 RPM, and our end value is 8,000 RPM. If we wanted it to be every 250 RPM, we would put in 250 into this. And then you see here, there are these white lines showing up, and they are the equivalent of every 250 RPM. And you can choose how thick you want them to be. So 1 is the default, but if you wanted them to be thicker, you could put in any number you want. So it makes sense for whatever you're designing. And then finally you have the color. You can choose the color of those tick marks to be anything you want. So in this case blue, and then you get a blue one. And so this is then what is our current circular graph looks like. So that's how the circular graph tool works in the new version of the Designer. Okay, so I hope this has been a useful video. Please like the video and subscribe because it does help us get more videos and more traction on YouTube. We're going to be doing more videos in the future about version 2021.4. So look for them talking about the analyzer and new features on the dashboard as well. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. And don't forget to download the demo of the Z1 dashboard and Z1 Designer software if you haven't done so already. The link is in the description below.